All right, welcome everybody. I see we have quite a lot of people joined already. As always, we'll wait for a couple more minutes before we get started to let some more people join. So, in 3 or 4 minutes, we'll start this webinar. All right, for the people that just joined, thank you all for joining. As always, we waited for a couple of minutes for everyone to get in. Um, so, without further ado, let's get started with this month's not webinar but open discussion. Um, so, as all the email invite said, this webinar will be an open discussion where myself, as presenter, but also in this case, one of the panel of experts, so to speak, because I kind of know what I'm talking about most of the time, together with Anya Freeman, the CEO of Kind Designs, one of our partners, will be joining me. We will do the introductions. I believe of Anya, we might do them right now, actually. So we'll get Anya on stage, and one of the peer businesswomen of Miami can tell us a bit about herself.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Should I give a little background on what we're building at Kind Designs?
Yes, please, or a little bit about what you want to talk about.
Sure. So I'm the founder of Kind Designs. We are a climate tech startup based in Miami. So we are backed by some climate focused VCs as well as government entities and government focused VCs. And what we're working on is solutions for the rising sea level problem in Miami. It's a big point of interest in our city, but also a lot of other cities, and especially in United States. And we are 3D printing some structures to that address flooding issues here and storm surges. But the key is that all of these structures also have an environmental element. So they function like artificial reefs. We have a sensor partner. So we've been able to build in sensors into our products that collect essential water quality data that we're also able to monetize. And through the attachment of sea life, there is a biocalcification process that happens. So we are also able to apply for carbon credits. So it's kind of the business model, is primarily selling these coastal construction products, but also recurring revenue through sensors and through carbon credits. And yeah, and that, we just got our printer. We're literally doing the training as we speak in the background here.
I was
The
just
CyBe
about
guys
to
are
say.
dying in the Miami heat, but it's all good. We're really excited.
Yeah, so some of our guys are actually right there behind you in the facility, setting up the printer and starting the training, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you a better look. I mean, they're
Yeah,
really sweaty. Just a warning.
yeah. Us Dutch guys can't handle the Miami heat.
Yeah, we have one CyBe appearance here. We're in the webinar. We're live. You're famous.
Well, Jesse might actually be famous because he normally is the moderator of our webinars, which is why this time, while we're turning cameras, I can introduce Quinten, who is the moderator for this webinar, since Jesse is indeed in Miami currently setting up the printer for Anya. So wonderful to have you, Anya. Thank you very much for being here. I know you're on a very tight schedule, so I believe about let's say 15, 20 minutes you'll be with us. So let's get to some questions, and after that, if there's more questions, I'll be here the full hour to answer those. So let's get into it. You already talked a little bit about what you did. Didn't miss any topics. So yeah, we'll talk a bit about the applications, not so much yours, because you already explained quite wonderfully what you're working on, and we'll keep it at that for now. We'll talk about some more applications, not only what you are doing, but what are some other partners of ours doing. Then I would love to have a bit of a chat with you about why you chose to go with us, what your experience been so far, and after that, we'll open the floor to everyone that's attending today, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions from the private chats as well. So as Quinten already said in the chat, if you do have a question that you would like us to follow up on, please ask those in the private chat. This way it doesn't get lost in the list of general chat. And that being said, let's get to it. So we know, of course, that Anya is doing something ecological in the rising sea levels, but we also have spoken with other partners, Wafi from New Zealand, I believe not the last webinar, but the one before there, where he was actually doing a kindergarten, housing, some traffic islands, some landscaping, flower pots, and some other partners over the world are doing full-on construction. So we have quite a broad spectrum of applications. But I was wondering, Anya, for you, what is the reason that you chose to go with us eventually?
Yeah, sure. So before we chose CyBe, it was actually during COVID, so it was easy to get in touch with people. I actually traveled and also spoke with the CEOs or founders of all these concrete 3D printing companies. There's actually not that many in the world, surprisingly, who've printed more than like a box. And what I saw is so many were speeding up their videos online. And then when I would go visit them in person, the robot was so slow, and they had so many and workers involved who were just running behind the robot and like patching up the concrete. And the economics made no sense. It was not faster. It was not cheaper. It was kind of this illusion of tech, a solution. But really, I think traditional methods would have been better than those printers. And with CyBe, I was number one, super impressed with the speed. It's for real. I think it's 500 millimeters per second,
Cool.
which is awesome because our economics, even though we are a climate tech company, the economics are really important for us. I don't want our products to have a green premium. And so the speed of the printer really, really enabled us to launch this whole product. So the speed, and number two, the resolution. So your printing layers were small enough for us to have details that we need for the artificial reefs. Like we need 3-inch caves and micro, macro textures, which would not be possible with a printer that had more thick layers. So that was impressive. And then you have a whole team, like your whole in-house designers, amazing in-house engineering team. So we really, really collaborated on creating our designs and on the engineering component as well. So yeah, there wasn't even like a second place. It was definitely always for us obvious that CyBe was the best partner.
Wonderful, and I can't even imagine that we did not study this beforehand. What a lovely answer to hear. Let's see. So that's great. Indeed, the speed is something that we're quite famous for, as well as the in-house team, of course. So it's very nice that they were able to help you pretty much not only get a printer there and get something printable, but actually get something that you wanted to print eventually that suited all your needs for your specific product and business case, right? So
yeah, exactly. It was definitely a partnership. It's not where just the customer will buy a product and we see you later. It's, I mean, almost like definitely weekly, but almost a daily relationship that we have that's been really instrumental. And also when I'm fundraising, for me to talk about CyBe being a partner has given us a lot of, just credibility, because you have been doing this for so long. That helped us raise money for sure.
Super nice to hear. So for the people watching, Anya, how long have we been in touch? You said we started during COVID, right? So we've been in touch with this partnership for quite a while, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's been well over a year.
Yeah, super nice. So what I would like to do, because we have some questions getting in already, I would like to see if there's questions that are specifically maybe for Anya at this point, since she is on a bit of a shorter time schedule than I am. And after that, we can get into the more general CyBe questions. And I'll throw a look at my moderator to see if there's any questions for Anya specifically already. If not, and you guys have them, please do ask. Keep in mind that Anya is doing something that's super innovative, and not everything is public information. So she might want to decline some questions. So that's just what it is. We might do another one of these collaborations in a couple of months when we can actually walk around the site where these objects will be placed.
Yeah, exactly. And the intellectual property component is important for us, especially because we're venture backed. That's a really important kind of requirement for their investment. So we just have to be a little careful in sharing.
Yeah. So we spoke about this a little bit already, but maybe you can elaborate on it on this question. What kind of support can I expect if I buy a 3D concrete printer from CyBe?
What kind of what? Support?
What kind of support? Yeah.
Yeah, so what I really like is we have like mandatory weekly meetings. So from the moment you make the purchase, we start working together and preparing the warehouse. There are very, very specific requirements. CyBe is very strict on the electric, the water requirements, like from the gloves to like the special nails and the helmets. So we had like a shopping list. So it was very supportive process, because I mean this whole warehouse was designed from this checklist and also the weekly meetings leading up to training. I thought was very helpful, and at the same time we're also getting support on the design. So we're working with a CyBe's in-house designer in a collaboration with our designer on making sure the design's printable and also making sure that it has the right reinforcement. So talking about the different options for reinforcement and the engineering to meet the local building codes is something we do with CyBe as well. So those are the two teams that we work with on a weekly basis. And then the trainings here, it's in Miami. They're here in person for 2 weeks. 2 guys from CyBe and our team, totally hands-on. And the idea is we will have our product printed by the time they leave. We're having actually a big event with all our investors, advisors, the mayor's office. with CyBe, and once they depart, we will just kind of be repeating the print that we've already achieved together.
So that's a super cool thing, right? That during the training you feel confident enough to have all your stakeholders come over and actually show them what you got, even after 2 weeks of having this. So I think that's a testament to the level of preparation that we, with our customer, like to go to make sure that once we get there, everything will work spot on, and you can indeed invite people to come look at it without any issues.
Actually, this party was CyBe's idea. You're gonna invite them. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So they're super confident, and yeah,
Yep.
we're excited.
Yeah, we got you. No worries. If everything is arranged from your side, then we'll make sure that everything is arranged from our side, and we'll just make it fly. We got a specific question for you, Anya, from a PhD student. I was looking for it. Um, Something with the university. Oh yeah, Boudewijn is asking, Anya, do you work with the University of Miami on coastal protections? Because I guess he's a
Yeah.
PhD student from that university.
So we tried, well, with we had a lot of discussions. With FIU, we've had a lot of discussions. But honestly, like, we are moving so fast. It's truly a startup speed because we're first to market. We have so many orders pre-launch, and the speed of universities is just very different. I mean, it's incredibly important, but we just couldn't find a way to work together where they could kind of keep up with the speed that we needed at Kind Design. So unfortunately, we did not end up establishing a partnership.
Gotcha. But that's another very interesting point that you mentioned, that since you are first to market, that your pipeline is already stacked up. So your return on investment is not something at all that you're scared of, right? For the
No, we're
printer.
sold out for a year. Sold out.
Yeah.
Our
So
only challenge is like scalability, getting enough printers in here and creating an operation flow where we can meet all the demand that we have already in orders.
yeah, which is of course also something, process optimizations, that we help with in the longer partnership, because once we actually have trained you, and you are fully operational, that's still not us being hands off at that point. That support that you talked about will last till after finishing the training, of course. That there's a full year of support already included in the purchase of a printer, and I guess if we do a good job for a year, then we'll be working together for many years. I'm looking forward to it. So
No, we have a 10-year agreement, and we buy printer, at least one printer per year every year to maintain it. So
gotcha.
you'll
That's
be
even
seeing a lot of us.
yeah, wonderful. Very good to hear. Let's see. Do we have anything else from Anya? Anya, yes, from Assad. Can you explain a bit more on potential solutions which this tech brings to the table against the tide of rising sea levels? I don't think you are happy to answer that one, but maybe without talking about your solution, can you explain a bit on potential solutions that this tech could also bring?
Sure. So it's just coastal construction applications, right? And like in cities like Miami, with rising sea levels, there's a lot more flooding. It's much more frequent and it's much more intense. And therefore, there's a lot of attention on solutions. And it's an area where there has not been any innovation. So everyone's very, especially governments, are very eager for a solution, also eager for, they want to be a part of this narrative to say, hey, we brought this tech to our city. So that's why we've had a lot of support from an investment side, but also from just like the mayor's offices, for example, and the governor as well. So that helped us a lot. It's neat because it's climate tech and construction tech merged together.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I believe we have another question that might be the same one. Yeah. Can you go a bit deeper into how you plan to do that? I don't think we'll be doing that today.
Soon, I promise.
Exactly, just to protect your IP. I do have another question from Blechty. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Hello, Anya. How long did it take to customize the printer to your needs? And which difficulties did you encounter? Did you have any compromise on anything?
It took us 3 months from the day we ordered to the day the printer was ready. Was 3 months, which is what was we expected.
Yeah. So there was a beneficial lead time for you due to the Corona stuff. We had some stuff in stock, so our general lead time At this point, due to the amount of orders, is a bit longer. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe we had to do any real customizations to your printer.
No,
One of the printers that we already offered covered all your needs, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can elaborate a bit more on that question. We do have some partners that ask us to do some customizations, like stuff that we have never done. So not small tweaks, but full on different nozzle options, stuff like that. For this, we do that because we do have in-house mechanical engineers, software engineers, so we can do custom stuff to our printer. Depending on the scope of that project, we will add that to the purchase of the printer. We will also put in a scope of work, a price tag, and of course a lead time. But as it is a customization, also the price and the timeline is custom to that customization. So there's not a set time. I don't believe in the production we had any set there. So let's see.
I think I have time for one more.
Yeah, no worries. Oh,
If there's no more, it's okay too.
yeah. Now we have some more. Let's see. Are you using local materials for CyBe Mortar? We're still working on that in different ways, right? So, but you are gonna be using a local material.
Exactly. So we wanted to start with a CyBe mortar. It's expensive for us because initially we had to ship it from Europe. Although I know now you've developed some partnerships in the United States, so we could order from there. But because we ordered a few months ago, we had to ship mortar from Germany, which was very expensive for us. But we want to start with a CyBe material because we know that the mix is so key in 3D printing, and it's like the best mix, and it's it works perfectly with this machine, this robot. So we just wanted to start, and also as we develop our own local mix, we wanted to know what like the best mix feels like. So kind of that sets the standard, the guidelines, and as we develop ours, we want to match that.
Yeah, and for you, like you said, the production speed is very important. Like the speed that we print with the 500 millimeters a second, we can do that not because our robot is fast, because everyone can buy a fast robot, but because our material sets so quickly. So our material, which someone said in the chat earlier, it's not a concrete, correct? It's a mortar, and maybe you can have a discussion about whether or not it is actually a mortar. But our material sets within 3 to 5 minutes, meaning that you can have a very high speed and you won't stack your layers too high before the bottom layer cures in order to carry the layers above, right? So you can go from the complete bottom all the way to the top in one go without having to stop or slow down, which was very important for your overall production speed, right?
Huge. Like the piece we print, we already did in the Netherlands full scale, which by the way is another thing to mention. Like before the printer even arrived, your team was printing full scale pieces of our product in the Netherlands, which we could then go and show investors, and we figured out the economics, the unit economics from that. But what we did was 45 minutes per piece, and traditional methods takes 24 hours. So it's an exponentially faster method.
Wonderful. All right, I'll leave it at that with you, Anya, to get you to your next meeting. Thank you so very much for your collaboration, not only in this, but over the last year. And we will be speaking again soon. If you guys do have any other questions for Anya, you can, of course, put them in the chat, and I will take them with me. And maybe when Anya has some time in her incredibly busy life, she might answer some over email, and we can get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to be with Mark Cuban, so wish me luck.
Okay, wonderful. Good luck, Anya. Good luck. Bye. Wait, did you say Mark Cuban? From it's called Shark Tank, right, in the US, the big investor program. Okay, that's very very cool. And there she goes, off to Mark Cuban. Gotcha. All right. So I believe in the meantime, while Anya was here, Quentin gathered quite a lot of questions. So I'll just kind of tilt my screen here and see if we can go over some of them. How can one get an internship at CyBe? Well, a very good step would be to send an email to HR, as in human resources, hr@cybe.eu. And then, of course, mention from where you would like to do that, in what field you would like to do it, and if you already have some more details about your internship. I would say shoot your shot. We're expanding quite quickly. So sometimes we have to pump on the brakes a bit, but we're expanding, of course, in the US, where we have CyBe Construction Florida, that's set up, which is a full subsidiary of ours. We also have, of course, a partner like Anya, who is very rapidly growing her company. So if you want to be an operator at Kind Design, I don't think she would mind us handing a couple of interested people over to her. So yeah, sure, shoot your shot, send us an email, and we'll see what we can do. Let's see. I believe we had two other questions from PhD students that are interested in or are doing research on providing solutions for current challenges in 3D printing. You're happy to share the most common problems with 3D printing? Yes. So again, the question would be, can you share the most common problems with 3D printing? I can share the most common ones in general, and I can try to think of one that we run into. So in general, we always say at CyBe, printing is just a means to an end. So it's not just about how well you can print or how fast you can print, although we do like to have a good printer. It's a means to an end. What we focus on is building faster, cheaper, and more sustainable. So it's not only about your printer, but it's about how you use it. That being said, a big problem in the industry is false promises, saying that you can print a house in one day for $10,000. Not going to happen. Well, maybe if you want to live in a I don't know 100 square foot little container, you might be able to do that. But realistic numbers is something that's very hard to get by, because of course it's a lot of venture capital in the business. There's a lot of companies that are trying to get big investments. So it's very hard to get realistic numbers because everything gets pumped up. For that reason, we're Dutch, we're quite realistic, we're quite direct, as many people know who have done business with Dutch people. We're quite direct, with us it's no bullshit philosophy. If we print something in a certain time, we'll say this in a certain time. But that's a big one. Getting good information, especially of course if you're doing research, getting reliable information is hard. There was another question about, is CyBe open to getting in touch to help me with that research? Yes, I can't promise that I'll be having a weekly meeting with you, but of course if you have questions for your research on material, print times, everything that you can think of, just send me a list of questions. I might not react within a week because we are quite busy, but I'm very happy to help you in this regard as well. Marco, how are you doing with the European legislative aspects to build houses in 3D? Oh, that's another big problem, legislation, which is why this is a nice follow-up question. So what we do, and some other companies do this as well, we use our 3D printed elements, which we use for the robotic system. We use them as lost formwork, meaning that we print a 2 or a 3 layer wall system that we then connect. So after placing them or printing them on site, we place them, we connect them, and then there is reinforcements, rebar is lowered into these cavities and put on top of the wall element, and then we cast that full with normal concrete. So then you have a reinforced concrete frame, essentially, so beams and columns, and those will be the structural bearers of the construction. And this is something that every structural engineer worldwide can calculate on. Every municipality in every country can also calculate on this to actually get a permit. So for load-bearing parts, we use quite traditional methods. We just use them in an efficient manner using the printed parts as lost formwork. In the Netherlands, there is an exemption in the building code where it states that if you test an object to failure or to a certain level, you can use it as a structural part, if it, of course, passes that test, which is what we did for the Vergaderfabriek, which is a Dutch project. Here we printed a wall element. We tested it in a testing facility to see when it would break. And the funny thing is, I love this story. We actually we broke the testing equipment because the wall wouldn't break. So at that point, the Dutch municipality said, okay, you tested it to failure. It's strong enough. You can now use it as a structural element. I'm not sure if this is the case in other parts of the world, but for the Netherlands, we could do that. In other parts of the world, we just use a reinforced concrete frame. Let's see. Francois, is it possible to rent a printer at CyBe before starting the final project? If that's a question, I believe that's a printing on demand question. So meaning that you share a model and we print it and ship it. So that's possible, but sometimes if the distance is too far, then for example, the element would cost €1,000 or dollars, and the transport would cost 10,000 or 5,000. It's more a matter of economics. Can you make a business case if you have to transport your elements so far? And if you only need one, is it useful to rent out a full shipping container to go across the world? We do offer printing as a service, but the experience tells us that most of the time it's hard to make a business case around that, since you have to transport these elements all the time. If the question was, can we rent one, as in, can you ship one to us that we can ship back after a certain time? Yes, but we don't like to do that. Also because of economics, but also because we can then either ship a full team with the printer. So we would have to ship the printer, 2 or 3 operators, the material, and the operators would have to have travel, accommodation, daily allowance, a place to sleep. And this also blows up your business case because it just gets too expensive. Usually, like with Anya, it's almost always more beneficial to buy a printer or lease one with a local leasing partner or one of our leasing partners. Because as you heard with Anya, she's completely booked for a year. So there's no problem with getting that return on investment. You just have to kind of make the plunge. If you hold back too much, you either rent it or print on demand, then you can destroy your business case. And then it's very hard to fill your pipeline. And then you say, well, 3D printing is not for me. Well, it could be. It's about how you make your business case. So I hope that answers the question, a bit more elaborate than just a question, but you've had a couple of projects in the UAE earlier on, but not anymore. Do you have any plans to return to the UAE or the MENA region anytime soon? Yes, but I cannot say a lot about that yet, unfortunately. But yes, we are, of course, considering our options in the UAE, KSA, the Middle Eastern region. Yes, there are some things in the making. That's, I'm afraid, all I can say right now. Do you think that 3D-CP is the cheapest method of construction of houses that don't have complex shapes or complex walls? Yes and no. So it depends on where. For example, we've tried to make a business case for a potential customer in Pakistan, and no matter how hard we tried with local materials, less labor, clever building solutions, we couldn't make the business case because the construction, for example, in Pakistan, there's more countries like this, but in Pakistan, the construction is so cheap, and the labor is very cheap. The building materials is cheap, and the regulations are quite lenient, so you don't have to have strict structural strength. For all those reasons, the traditional building style that is used there is just more economical. It might not be more beautiful, it might not be stronger, but it is just cheaper. So there we couldn't make the business case. In European countries, New Zealand, Australia, North America, some places in South America, Middle America, South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, we can make this business case. This depends on the region. And it also depends on the solution. So for the people that have watched our webinars before, we have our robotic system printing just wall elements that are then filled with reinforced concrete in certain locations. But we also have PPVC, so that's prefabricated, pre-finished volumetric construction. Nice tongue twister halfway through the webinar, where we actually print modules that can then be stacked on the construction site, fully finished. So we have different construction principles in different regions. In a lot of places, we are indeed cheaper than traditional and cheaper than most other alternatives. In some regions, the business case is just too hard to make as of right now. Once labor prices or material prices increase in those regions, then we might see a shift in this. But for now, some regions, it's just not possible to make the business case for 3D concrete printing. Have you done any seismic tests? Can 3D printed construction be deployed in seismic areas? No and yes. So I don't recall us having done any seismic test per se, as in build something, put it on a shaking platform and see when it breaks. But like I explained earlier, we make use of traditional reinforced concrete frames, so beams and columns. And as soon as you enter a seismic area, you have to make these bigger or smaller. So with any construction projects, you always have the structural requirements: wind loads, earthquake, what else is there? Temperature, expansion, shrinkage. All of these play a part in structurally designing a complying building with the local building regulations. And if the loads are higher, so more wind, more earthquakes, hurricanes, flooding, stuff like that, you can adjust the model based on these requirements. So what we do in a seismic area, we print thicker walls that allow us to make bigger cavities to put thicker reinforced concrete columns into, and then they comply. All right, so this is why we can build in New Zealand with our partner Wafi from Corox. We just make the columns thicker, and I believe they even fill the complete wall with a light or medium density concrete. So there's changes to be made to the building principle that can make it compliant with local regulations, even in seismic areas. Have you tried to automate the operation of structural reinforcements as well? Yes and no. So we don't particularly believe in having 7 robots at the build site doing different things through each other. We think that everything is technically possible, but you have to look at the economics. So if you need 2, 3, 4 different robots, different nozzles, different functions, you make things messy, and it can work. There are some companies that are doing quite some cool stuff with this, but I haven't seen them make an economically viable product yet. They're doing research, but I don't think it's cheaper as of right now. What we do is what I just said, building wall elements or building fully finished modules. And these modules we print. The rebar is already placed. We print around this. After printing, we move them out of the way and we fill them with concrete. And while we fill the one with concrete, so the floor slab and the columns, we can start printing the next one. So this way we do automate the full process, not per se on the job site, but maybe in an assembly line factory style setting. So that's our solution to automating a bigger part of the process. Let's see. Baudo says, at least in the past, 3D mineral composite printing. I see what you did there. Not concrete or mortar, but mineral composite. That's an interesting way of putting it. I get why. I'll call it concrete for the sake of the question. At least in the past, 3D concrete printing did not result in carbon reduction despite material reduction. This due to high Portland cement content. Has the mix design been optimized? Is geopolymer being applied in order to reduce carbon? Wonderful that you mentioned Portland. One, our material does not contain any Portland cement whatsoever. It uses a different bonder, a different bonding agent that actually, in the production of it, already produces 32% less CO2 than Portland cement, meaning that we don't only use less material than traditional construction, we also use a material that has that produces less CO2 when it's being produced. So that's one. Two, geopolymers. Wonderful question. Yes, our partner Hive 3D in Texas, the US, they actually, I believe they finished their third or fourth house already using the robotic system that we offered, using their own mixed geopolymer, which they locally mixed. And the company is called Hive 3D. So you might be able to find some information on them on the website or maybe via their LinkedIn. There's some videos of that. I believe we might also have a newsletter or something on our own website. So our moderator is trying to find some links to refer you to them. Yes, we are also working on getting this geopolymer ourselves, maybe not their mix, but our own mix. Because for the people that don't know, geopolymer is cement or a concrete replacement that actually stems from, in most cases, waste streams. So you don't have to produce the binder, it's already there, you're using it, which is why on paper it produces net zero or almost zero CO2 in production, or at least 90% less. So doing this internationally is quite difficult because in all different locations you have different waste streams. And then if you would produce it in one place, you would have to ship it, and then your CO2 reduction goes out of the window. So you can't just do one geopolymer for the entire world. You have to do it locally, or at least kinda locally. How do I determine if 3DCP is a good solution for the problem I'm trying to solve? So a good first step in that one would be get in touch with me as a sales representative, and then hopefully have quite a nice description of what you are trying to do with it. So maybe if you're trying to build a house, a certain house, a floor plan with maybe a budget and a time schedule, and based on that we can see how realistic is it to 3D print this. If you're doing something else like some street furniture, artificial reefs, traffic islands, whatever you come up with, have a description ready, have some information about it, get in touch with us, and I can analyze it on a high level, just look at it and say this is not going to work, or this might work, or this is definitely going to work. If I say this might work, then I'll bring it to my team of architects and structural engineers, and they can take a look at it, and then together we can build a business case around it. Does CyBe license material supplies as well, or do you transport these from European suppliers? We don't specifically license them. We enter into partnerships together with our material producer out of Germany, which is also a partner of ours, and together we look how we can do local material development. So a part of the mixture will, in this case, always be shipped from Germany. However, in the US, there might be some different partnerships that are being set up. So we don't license it ourselves. We work in partnerships, and we see what's the best way to collaborate. Technical question from Tasia. To build a wall 3 meters high, would you print in different phases, or can this be done in one go? In one go, most definitely. So our standard printer, the robotic arm on a crawler, can print up to around 3.2 meters. And with the height extension, this extends up to 4 if the wall is not too wide, because of course a robot has a donut-shaped printing area. If it's a bit narrower, I believe it can go up to 4.2, 4.3 meters high. And due to the very quickly curing material, we can go from bottom layer all the way to the top at full speed, 500 millimeters a second, because once the printer gets to the third, fourth, fifth, sixth layer, the bottom layer is already hard enough to support the weight of the layers on top. And the higher you go, the harder the material on the bottom will become. So we don't have to stop once. For the people that took a look at Hive 3D with the geopolymer, you might see some lines where they stopped. And the first time I saw those pictures, I was like, well, that probably means that the material doesn't cure quick enough, which is not true. At that point that they took the pictures, they were still mixing the material batches by hand. So every other 5 to 10 minutes, they had to stop to mix a new batch to continue printing. So they can go in one go. They are now just working on mixing their batches more efficiently so that they can go in one go. The students and researchers have permission to use publicly available data from CyBe website or from CyBe webinars in their research. Yes, definitely. So if you need a material data sheet or printer specifications, everything out of the webinars can be taken. We do, of course, this is mandatory in any research. Please cite us in your literature list or your sources, and then it's absolutely fine. Even if a lot of information came from us and we might find it interesting, please feel free to send over your research. We would love to see what you did with our data, because we're quite curious by nature and, of course, quite a young company. So many of us have also done a PhD or a master thesis, and we would love to see what you came up with. So yeah, sure, use it as long as you cite us and put us in the list of sources. How do I know if 3DCP will actually be cheaper for the project I'm doing? That's pretty much the same as what I just said. Get as much information on the project that you can. So preferably a floor plan or a 3D model. And then we can do a printability analysis and a high-level cost estimate. Depending on the scale of the project, this might come with a price tag. If you have a very large building, our engineers will have to work on this for a couple of days. And that is, of course, paid work. But if you then determine, hey, wonderful, after this analysis, I can now make my business case, I can buy a printer from you and I can start building, then all that work that we did beforehand will be discounted in the purchase of a printer, because normally this kind of work is included within the purchase of a printer, if that makes sense. So we can do quite a lot of analysis. If you're not willing to spend money on checking if your project might work, you can also just ask me and I can say yes or no. If you want more information, we have to do a deeper analysis. Do you follow a specific guidelines for material and structural design? Well, I would love for you to elaborate on that question a little bit, because I might want to answer it, but then I'll probably give an answer that you're not that doesn't answer your question. So if you could elaborate, I will come back to that. Is there a chemical admixture used in the mix? Can the accelerator be used at the nozzle of injection? So there is an additive used. We don't use an accelerant because we don't need it. We use a retarder. So this retarder actually slows down the setting time, and we add this at the mixing chamber. Our material by itself sets within 3 to 5 minutes, depending on humidity and temperature. And based on these things, we regulate the setting time with this retarder, as well as with the temperature of the water that we use for mixing. So a lot of people might say, well, if it's very warm and dry outside, will the material crack? No, because we just use a lot colder water and a bit more retardant to actually regulate the setting time of our material. So we have internal temperature control, if you will. Do you experience buckling when printing all the way up to 4 meters high? Cracks, bends, or collapses on its own weight? No, not at all. 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters. If our printing reach would allow it, we could probably even do 7 or 8 meters, because the material sets so very quickly. It just becomes self-supporting. By the time that there is more weight on it, it's strong enough. By the time this weight increases, it's getting stronger. So the strength increase of the bottom layers are in line with the weight increase of the layers above it. So even if we go in one go, it won't buckle or collapse. Let's see. So the chemical admixture, I already had that. Do you hire another company for terrain issues and foundations, or do you do it all? Yes. So in the Netherlands, we are a general contractor where we can do full projects, but still for foundations, site scans, soil analysis, all these things, we use external companies, just as any general contractor might. If we do construction in a different country, we can be hired as a subcontractor. But like I said earlier, usually the business case is hard to make because of all the travel. It's the same as saying, I really, really like this carpenter from the Netherlands, but I want him to fly over and do this project in Nigeria. Well, this carpenter is probably amazing, but you will destroy your entire business case because he's going to be too expensive to fly over to Nigeria, for example. Same goes with us. We would love to work on all the projects worldwide, but it's very hard to make a business case if we have to fly halfway across the world to actually print something for a week or two. So, like I said, exceptions can be made, and if you're willing and able to pay that extra price because you really want something 3D printed, then we are definitely open to doing it, but it's hard to make a business case around. So same as roofing, windows, all of this will probably be done by local companies, because if we fly over, we only do printing and we're out of there as quick as we can be to reduce the amount of cost of us being there for the project, right? So foundation, roofing, finishing, all of that is normally done by different companies. In case of unforeseen circumstances like rains, flooding, cyclones during construction process, how do you manage it? We try to keep an eye on the weather app. If there's heavy rains coming and we know when and we know how long the print will take, and we see that there's enough buffer, we will do the print and then go inside. If the print has been done for more than, let's say, 10-15 minutes, then it's quite capable to keep up to heavy rain because the material is hard enough. Very high winds we don't really like because of the walls. They can fall over if they're very narrow walls. So after printing, we usually stud them with some wooden beams, which can be done quite quickly after printing. This, of course, all goes for on-site printing. We also do quite some off-site printing. For example, our partner in New Zealand, Wafi, he has an off-site printing facility where he can just print inside, and then when it's sunny, he moves a full truck bed of these elements to the location, puts them together, and he can place, what did he say in the last webinar, 26 wall elements in a day or something?
Yeah, something like that.
And completely fixed and all. So then you can just print for a couple of days in your facility, and then if you have 1 or 2 nice days, place your elements, secure them, and you can go back inside if it rains after that. How do you take care of early age cracks due to shrinkage in 3D-CP? I don't know how most companies do it. I guess they just fill it with other material. For us, we don't have shrinkage, which is why our material is so special. Not only the curing time, but we also have a material that doesn't shrink or expand, which is why we don't get cracks, even in hot weather, which is also a reason that a lot of people like to keep using our material, because that's a very big problem in 3D-CP, cracking. Also why we don't like to print big monolithic structures, like with a big gantry printer on site, you print a very long wall. A little bit of expansion over a wall that's 30 feet long will go a long way in causing cracks. We print smaller elements that we place together, and in between these elements there's expansion joints. So even if they do expand and contract a little bit due to heat or during curing, they won't crack. They have the room to do this. How quickly can you set a prefabricated wall up on the foundation and start your build of the first floor? So 28-day wait? No. So our material will start curing within 3 to 5 minutes. So then it becomes hard to the touch, but you can still crumble it, but it's load bearing. Then after an hour, I believe we have, you know what, I'll just grab the data sheet here. We have, what we do, we say after 5 minutes, you can stack layers on top, so you can print in one go. Then after an hour, it's completely cured. And then after 24 hours, it's dehydrated and strong enough to be lifted or moved from the bottom or lifted from the top. So 1 day instead of 28. Then after 28 days, of course, the material will still keep curing. So I believe after 1 day, it's about 20 MPa. And then after 28 days, it's 45 or 40, between 40 and 50 MPAs of compressive strength. Don't pin me on those numbers. Don't use them in your research. Top of my head, we do have a data sheet that explains this. We have, I believe, 3 more. If any other come up, I'm afraid we'll have to keep it for a different time. So we'll keep it with these 3. What about the 3D CP supply chain? What is the process you follow before starting the printing phase? So what we like to have is a very detailed set of drawings, right? With any construction project, when you enter the operational phase, you want to have everything documented correctly. Then once we show up, or when we actually get there, we would like to have the foundation completely laid out so we can start printing or placing the wall elements. It's quite a broad question actually, because there are some different supply chains that you can use. You can also just keep printing one specific type of elements that you can just use for all your walls. You can just print them in a warehouse and stack them up completely ready to go. And then once a couple of foundations for different projects are cured, you can move them all out and place them in a very short sequence. Then with the modular building, you can completely build pre-finished modules, store them in a warehouse until the site is completely ready to receive them, and then just throw them on there. But you can also print and place at the same time, doing 2 things at the same time. It depends on the project specifics. So that's quite a broad question to answer. If you have a specific use case, please send me an email and I might be able to get back to you on that. Are you looking for a business expansion by collaborating with startups in the field of concrete 3D printing in other countries? Which is a very nice question that actually ties in quite nice with different questions. What do I need to set up a 3D CP company? Yes, we are interested in building collaborations. Yes, we are also interested in some joint ventures around the world, partnership agreements. We have quite a lot of those, but there are some prerequisites to making that possible. If you're a one-person startup with no capital, no projects in the pipeline, and no personnel, it becomes very hard to start a 3D printing company, because you need operators, you need to invest in your printer, and you need a first project to work on. So once you have these things, let's say you're a general contractor, you have some people, you have some capital, or at least a company history which you can base a leasing agreement on, then we can see what kind of collaboration is possible. If you're just one man or woman saying, I like this stuff, I want to start building houses, you have no pipeline, no experience, no personnel, and no financial means, then it becomes very hard for us to support you, because we can't finance you, deliver personnel, give you projects, and all of this. Right? So it's a two-way street. If you have some of the prerequisites, definitely we can work together, maybe a joint venture or a partnership agreement. If you're just very excited about the technology and you want to start building, but you're a one-man show with no resources, then it becomes very hard for us to help you. Although we would love to, the experience teaches us that nothing can come out of that. So if you want to work together with us, make sure you have at least some of those things, a concrete project, some financing possibilities, or some personnel or experience in the construction sector. and then sure, reach out and we'll see how we can work together. And I believe on that note, that was the final question that we were gonna handle. I believe my moderator will now put a link in the chat where you can actually reach out to us. These are some standard slides that we always have in our webinars about the academy and the library that we have. All of that can be found on the website. I would like to thank all of you very much for being here for our first open discussion. It was quite new to us, so please let us know what we did correctly and what you would like to see us improve for our next open discussion, if you even want to have another one, and then we can see how we can improve to accommodate the next time. For all the people that I told to get in touch with me or asked if they wanted to ask follow-up questions, you can do so via the contact form on our website, which is on the screen here, but I believe also linked in the comments. You will get an automatic reply asking for some more information about your company, what you want to do, where you're from. All of these things are very important for me to help you properly, and I get, don't want to say 50, but nearing 50 emails per day. So I would love for you to fill in that contact form so I actually know who I'm speaking with, and also the automatic reply. After getting a response to the automatic reply, I will get personally in touch with you. So that's it from my side. Thank you all very much for being here and for your questions. I hope this was informative for you. And if you have anything else, you know where to find me. So please get in touch. Thank you, guys.